Welcome to the Sounds of Resistance channel. The Russian army is trying to defend in order to stay in the Ukrainian lands it has annexed. The Ukrainian forces, on the other hand, are tirelessly pushing the Russian defense lines and piercing the Russian defenses in many directions. Ukrainian forces carried out heavy airstrikes on the Russian defensive positions in the direction of the southern Bukh River and tried to break the defensive line formed by the Russian soldiers in the region. Tensions are high in the region, but it's under the control of Ukrainian forces. Both the Air Force and the ground forces of the victorious Army of Ukraine are conducting simultaneous operations against the Russian forces. With these operations, the Russian forces are dealt heavy blows. According to the Ukrainian Southern Operations Command, on the same day, more than 190 missiles were fired at the Russian forces with multiple missile launchers, while Air Force planes made 13 airstrikes. As a result of these attacks, the Russian forces suffered losses and had to retreat. Ukrainian fighters destroyed 4 Russian air defense positions, 3 Russian soldiers, a Russian ammunition depot in the area, as well as 3 command posts of the 35th Army of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation in the south. Russian-backed sabotage and reconnaissance groups, which were established by the instruction of Vladimir Putin, work from time to time to expose Ukrainian positions. In this context, a clash occurred between the soldiers in the Russian-backed sabotage and reconnaissance group and the soldiers at the Ukrainian observation point. With the coordinates provided by the sabotage and reconnaissance groups to the Russian soldiers, the Russian Air Force attacked the positions of the Ukrainian soldiers in the Davydiv Brid region, twice with a helicopter and an attack plane. As a result of this attack, Ukrainian troops suffered no casualties. In the last period of the war, the airstrikes of the Ukrainian armed forces were 3.5 times more frequent and more effective than usual. 4 Russian air defense positions in the Berislav and Kakova regions, as well as 3 Russian soldiers and a Russian ammunition depot in the Mykolaiv, Bashtanka, and Kherson regions were destroyed. Missile and artillery units of the armed forces of Ukraine made more than 190 missile attacks. As a result of missile attacks, Russian forces lost 2 Uragan MLRS, a Grad MLRS, a Soln-Sepik heavy flamethrower system, an electronic warfare station, 2 122mm mortars, 3 tanks, and 3 important command centers of the 35th Army of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation. In addition, 2 Russian Orlan-10 aircraft were shot down by Ukrainian forces during an attempt by Russian forces to conduct aerial reconnaissance. While the details of the missile launches of the Ukrainian forces are as follows, the details of the aerial attacks of the Ukrainian Air Force are as follows. Ukrainian Armed Forces aircraft carried out 13 airstrikes against Russian strongholds, military manpower, and areas where weapons and equipment are concentrated in southern Ukraine. The Ukrainian Air Force dealt a heavy blow to the Russian forces with 13 attacks, including Russian forts, areas of concentration of Russian military personnel, mainly air defense positions, checkpoints, and ammunition depots. Confirmed Russian casualties included 18 soldiers, 2 Mesta-S self-propelled howitzers, 2 Grad multiple rocket launchers, a Pion self-propelled gun, 4 armored vehicles, and an ammunition depot in the Berislav area. At the same time, Ukrainian forces severely damaged 3 Mesta-S self-propelled howitzers, a Grad multiple rocket launcher, a Gyatsint-B large-caliber gun, a tank, and other armored vehicles. With these attacks, the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces stated that the Russian forces had to withdraw from many settlements in its latest operational update, published on the social media platform. Russian forces are bombarding the positions of the Ukrainian troops along the line of contact, strengthening defensive positions in certain directions, and conducting aerial reconnaissance. Violating the norms of international humanitarian law, laws, and customs of war, the enemy continues to attack civilian infrastructure and civilian settlements. In the past days, Russian troops carried out more than 5 missile strikes and 23 airstrikes, more than 66 MLRS attacks. More than 30 settlements in the Dnipropetrovsk region, including Nikopol and Shakhtarsk, were attacked by Russian troops. These regions are as follows: Hulushkivka in the Kharkiv region, Orikhiv and Mali Sherbaki in the Zaporizhia region, Dmitrivka in the Kiev region, Bilohirka in the Kherson region, and Vuhledar in the Donetsk region. Russian forces use various types of tanks, mortars, and UAVs to bombard areas with Ukrainian civilians and soldiers. Due to the Iranian-made shaded 136 suicide drones deployed in Belarus, there are airstrike threats in Volyn and Polisia regions. Russian forces conducted airstrikes on more than 40 settlements in total, 15 in the Novopavlivsk and Zaporizhia regions of Ukraine, and 25 in the southern Bukh region. The Ukrainian military stated that in the occupied areas, its controls at Russian checkpoints have intensified, filtering measures have become more stringent, it carefully checks the contents of phones and other devices, and extensively searched cars and personal belongings and broke into homes. The Ukrainian Defense Forces have neutralized approximately 64,000 Russian soldiers from February 24th, the day the war began, to the present. In the Skadovsk and Kherson regions, the Russians forcibly detained 2 people for their pro-Ukrainian positions. In the center of Kherson, Russian soldiers stole work clothes, shoes, and money from one of their workplaces. Laboratory equipment, home and office equipment, and other property were stolen from the territory of an agricultural enterprise in the Berislav region. These moves of the Russian forces will make Russian President Vladimir Putin blush. Russian President Vladimir Putin expects Russian soldiers in Ukraine to fight to the last drop of their blood, but the minds of Russian soldiers are not so much about fighting. The primary aim of the Russian soldiers in Ukraine is to find a safe escape route despite the counterattacks of the Ukrainian forces. While the Russian soldiers are looking for an escape route, they covet the property and jewelry of the Ukrainian civilians as booty. This situation did not go unnoticed by Mikhailo Podolyak, the chief advisor of the Office of the President of Ukraine. Podolyak said in a statement on social media that the army discipline and fighting spirit of the Russian soldiers who thought about looting were lost. At the same time, Podolyak noted that the Russian soldiers were engaged in looting and fleeing. This situation, stated by Podolyak, is clearly seen in the Kherson region. Russian soldiers are so unrelated to defending their positions in Ukraine that Ukrainian forces can easily reclaim occupied territories. As of today, Ukrainian forces have liberated 75 settlements in the Kherson region from the Russian persecution. The number of settlements liberated by Ukraine forces is increasing day by day. With the Ukrainian forces advancing so quickly, especially in the Kherson region, the Kremlin government is trying to encourage the Kiev government to start negotiations. After Vladimir Putin's declaration of annexation, it is clear that the Kiev government will not accept any peace treaty. However, it's known that Vladimir Putin does not intend to end this war. In a very short time, Ukraine continued its attacks without slowing down, despite Putin's decision to annex its forces. Putin wants to move the negotiation phase in order to slow down the offensive speed of the Ukrainian forces. But as is known and seen before, Putin has never stopped attacking Ukraine. As will be remembered, last year Putin deployed a military force to a region close to the Ukrainian border, which lasted about a month. After this Russian movement received great reactions from the world public opinion, Russia announced that it was withdrawing its military elements from the region within a week. But Vladimir Putin withdrew only Russian military manpower from the region and kept its military infrastructure ready on the Ukrainian-Russian border. In fact, Putin prepared for these attacks a long time ago. Now, as Ukrainian forces accelerate, the Kremlin government seeks to cool the war in order to gather strength with a so-called peace treaty. Of course, the Kiev government is also aware of this situation. For this reason, he is in no way in favor of negotiating peace with the Russians. With the approach of winter, the Russians know that they are at a disadvantage, and the Ukrainian armed forces will make the best use of these advantages. Thank you for watching us. To be notified of new videos, please do not forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications.